I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call.
Mr. Paulson,
Here.
Mr. Smonik,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Hammer, Mr. Gibbons, and Miss Gillespie are absent.
Okay, has everybody had a opportunity to look at the agenda that's presented before us? If you have, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as provided?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, we have the minutes from the last meeting on the back of the page. Give you a couple minutes to read it over. If everybody's had an opportunity to read it, do we have a motion to accept the previous meeting minutes?
So
I'll make the
moved.
motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed. Okay, we have the budget report.
Yeah, Terry's gone, so you can see the budget there, and he had a note on the bottom. It's the way they figure overtime between the two departments. When I get a bunch of overtime, like helping the highway side, it ends up being messed up out of whether it comes out of weeds or highway, and he's been working with the auditor, and he's got a pretty good explanation there, the way it works. When I get overtime, it'll actually come out of the highway budget instead of the weed budget. It's a little complicated when you get two of us running on one department and the other, and how it balances out and the way the auditor's gotta do it, so that's why we're over on overtime, but then with the flooding, yeah, I had a bunch of that. In the wintertime, when I'm helping plow snow, then it's all highway, but summertime, it gets complicated, and he got it sorted out, and that's the way we'll go forward, that my wages come out of the weeds, and any overtime will come out of the highway side.
So that budget remaining on the overtime wages there, it shows a negative, that's what,
The negative's the overtime wages that I went over, because
okay.
it should only be around 600, give or take, a few windy, rainy days, I run later, early, come in an hour early or something, but when you work 3-4 days through the weekend, and that kind of blew the budget out of the water, and this year was a little bit odd, but we've dealt with it a couple times before, and Terry and the auditor came up with a plan, and this is the way they're gonna go forward. Chemical budget is still really high. I have not ordered chemical, which I will here in the next month or two. That's why there's a lot left in there. I always order that right before year end. I have Milestone, I'll get ordered right away. There's a discount if you order in September. And then I'll work on getting the rest of the chemicals bought up towards the end of the year. I have to have them purchased for the first of the year, so they're on this budget.
Is it expected to go higher or stay the same?
No, I'm gonna stay about flat, even. The way I'm spraying, we get these really clean roads. I'm spraying 6 foot of it instead of 30. So I'm trying to bring the chemical usage down to where if you got a good clean ditch, don't dump $40 an acre chemical on it. You gotta watch, cause it can get away from you, but I've been slowly bringing that down, so we should be about the same amount of chemical as last year. I was looking back all the way to 2018, and I'm down around 20%, 25% on chemical use.
And you've got a screen that tells you where the troubled spots are, right?
Yeah, I have maps that I make up on my own. I have every road mapped out by the mile, and I keep track of
Yeah.
what worked and didn't. And then now this year, I'll have to go back where we get the flooding. There's gonna be some dirty spots, but, and I've kind of, spot spraying can burn you, but you get these places where they hay it all the time. It's a good, clean ditch. There's no need to spray all the way to the fence. I get the shoulder done, I run back with a Ranger, so actually I'm spraying about somewhere between 6 and 12 feet instead of 60 feet. And then there's other roads that are dirty, you just have to spray them to the fence. But I'm slowly working it down and call it spot spraying, but more hitting bad spots and not just saying cover this road in chemical. Trying to be a little fiscal responsible with the chemical out there because it is spendy. And I'm sure chemicals will go up 2-3% like it does every year.
So is this showing an atypical year or a non-typical year as far as expenses? Probably higher, isn't it? Quite a bit higher.
Yeah, with damaged vehicle and my overtime, because like repairs and maintenance with the pickup, I drove over the tree on the road. That burned up that, which should have covered 4 vehicles. And Terry and I did discuss a little bit that we might be a little low on repair maintenance, because like with a tandem truck, you say repair, everything's $3,000. I need an exhaust pipe put on that, and I think it's close $700 just for the pipe. So I know he was looking at moving that up a little bit.
Any other questions, discussions, or anything on the financial aspect of it? If not, do we have a motion to accept the budget as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed. Spray report.
Spring had a good start, and then we had another 100-year flood every 10 years, and that put me to an end, so spraying really got difficult with ditches full of water, and I had to just, I quit and I sprayed the shoulders, 6 or 11 feet, got across the whole county. And then when everything finally dried out, now I'm back to, I'm going to try and fall spray every road. I'm about 50% there. I think I'm gonna make it. Usually in a year, I'll pick 4 or 5, maybe 6 roads and fall spray it, just kind of a rotation. But this year I'm gonna try and fall spray everything, because spring I couldn't. Once that rain hit, there was, yeah, you weren't gonna spray anything for a month and a half till the water went out of the ditch. And I was helping on the other side too. I did try 2 new chemicals on kochia on the shoulders and had good results with them, which I got pictures here in a bit. Other than that, yeah, spraying's been going good, and I'm about half done with everything this fall. So. I did find this spring early, we had grass grew like mad because it was kind of cool. And the first roads I sprayed with that really tall grass, weeds got away, and I think I couldn't get the chemical down to the weeds. Grass is 18 inches, 2 foot tall, and you got a 6-inch weed, it's hard to get to it. But I got 680 miles of ditch to cover, so you gotta start, and then usually that's my fall spray roads too, anything that I start real early, so you get a second shot on them. Trying to keep them down. Any other questions on spraying?
Nope. We'll go right into the equipment report.
Yeah, like I said, we had the pickup that I drove over a tree, and Ranger's done real good, big truck. That, I had the air conditioner had a leak, and then I got an exhaust pipe that leaks on it. And other than that, everything's been going good, some nickel and dime fitting stuff to fix, but Been working good.
Trouble spots?
I think I figured it up at about 63 complaints. That's emails, phone calls, or somebody chasing me in person. Sent out 21 letters, and I only consider 2, maybe a third one that I'm not satisfied with. They did something, but it wasn't very good. A couple of them they take forever, and they do it every year. They'll wait till the last damn minute before they do something, but they did something, so they I can push, but they know the game. But no, most of them got them handled. A lot of stuff, well, I think I only had, out of those 63, only 9 of them were south of Highway 18. Everything's up T, Harrisburg. A lot of those are around the construction in Sioux Falls, T, Harrisburg, and it falls in their city limits. I can't do nothing if it's in their city limits. So they don't like that, but it's not in my jurisdiction. I can't do nothing about it, but. No, it did pretty good. Like I said, there's only 3 of them that I technically wasn't satisfied with, and I'll chase them right away in the spring again, along with my handful that I chase every year.
How do you want to get those complaints? I know I called you, 2 or 3 different times and let you know about a couple. Is that the way you want them?
They can get on there's a web, they can go to the courthouse or Lincoln County website. They can send an email. They can call the office. They can call the highway department. It's however they want, or they chase down one of the guys that goes chase me. I know I had, Jim called me on a couple of them. You called me on one. Some of them chase that way. You know, it's however they come in.
You don't really care one way or the other as long as.
Makes no difference to me, and I follow them up, and of course they all, if they call Monday, they want it mowed by Friday, but you can't you can't do that. You gotta follow the steps and give them time, and the laws are made to protect the landowner. So, and a lot of the complainers are unhappy with that, but you gotta follow the steps in order. And then there's some that play the game that send a letter back, return to sender, so then go around again and then send certified mail, and, you know. Most landowners is not an issue, it's more businesses or corporations that you play the games with, but.
We kind of create some extra work for you because that one I called in for you, I give you the cross section of the streets and the avenues and everything, but on that one, I couldn't find an owner.
Yeah, you gotta do some chasing. I end up here trying to chase down, call, and like finding a phone number. I'd prefer to be able to call them before send a letter. Hey, this is what we got, you ain't gonna find nobody's phone number. Good luck. Nobody's in the phone book. Businesses, you can call and ask, and they'll put you on hold, and 3 hours later, you might or might not get somebody. So even if I try to call, which, if, say I get a complaint on Ralph from you, and I got Ralph's number, I'm still going to send him a letter. Legally, you want to do that because you got to document what you're doing, because if he digs his feet in and wants to fight it to where I got to go mow it or spray it, I need every conversation documented. And I got my list and I follow down.
You gotta have your paper trail.
Yeah, from the minute it starts, how did I get it? If I call you on the phone, it's my side of the story, but I have a paper that I write down who I called, what time, what we talked about, what I said, and then I sign it, and that goes in. And if I call you 5 times, I have 5 of them. So some of them can get to be quite a thick folder, but if they ever want to fight us, I have everything I've ever talked about in writing. Yes, it's my side of the story, but at least I have it written down. It can be annoying, but it's not that terrible hard. Just
The one that I called in, I give you a realtor number. Do they own those sites? So you still have to go through them to find out the owner.
yeah, and that one was through a LLC that I think it was technically 2 different LLCs together on that. So then you gotta go to both of them to try and get a response, and a lot of them, they'll never answer, but I give it to 10 days and I go up and look. Well, you can tell they got the letter because they're out there trying to mow. And I happened to run into the guy that was mowing because he'd got stuck with a skid loader. So I talked to him and we had a good conversation. And then the next day, there was a gentleman that called me from one of the LLCs, and I told him what was going on, and just take care of it. And they were trying, but it was also mud too. He got stuck. And I told him on that one, I said, if you're getting stuck, don't. It ain't worth it. I know somebody's complaining about the weeds, but you're not gonna have a $500 bill towing a skid loader out. But as soon as it's dry, get in and do something. You gotta be realistic on some of them. I do have one by T that it's a development that's all seeded in alfalfa. They mow the ditches, they spray the weeds and all that, and there's just a very few, but the person complaining is not satisfied. I think I'm
You
five.
know, you were also saying that some of those areas could have water and that was still running.
Yeah, and if it's full of water, I dealt with one down south, it's standing with 4 inches of water and two guys complaining. Yeah, he called and I said, I'm not gonna force you to go out there and if you stand in water, you ain't gonna touch it for 2 months. They'll probably go to seed, but you gotta be realistic. You can't force somebody to go out and bury a piece of equipment just to kill a weed. And the weeds didn't show up overnight. To get a patch that big, it's been there quite a while. So unfortunately, you gotta be realistic about getting rid of them too. I know they want it tomorrow, but no. And I get a lot farther with, you get to talk to them, and yes, I understand it's underwater and that, and I'll watch it, but you keep after it, and maybe I'll call you down the road, and I've had real good results with that. You know, you're realistic with them. They ain't gonna go out and bury equipment to cut weeds. Some are real easy to take care of, and others, they call me names. Oh, well.
We don't have to put up with this for another 10 years.
Yeah.
Another flood, 10
No
years.
more floods. God, I hope not.
100 years, isn't it?
Well, it's getting to last all the time.
What was it, 10 years, that was a 100-year flood, and this year it was a 1,000-year flood. What's the next one gonna be?
Yeah, better start building an ark.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, when it was coming down that one night, I dumped the rain gauge at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock or something, and it's just a little 5-inch rain gauge I got in the garden. I went in the house, I came back out 45 minutes later, and it was full. You couldn't see the neighbor's house across the street, and I was like,
No,
yeah, I hope we don't do that again. It makes for a long summer,
makes for a mess.
but we'll get there. No, the complaints, yeah, I'm getting through them. Some go quick, some, it's quite the battle, but keep working on them, and I stay on them, and I keep track of, I've got, in the computer, I've got probably everybody I've sent letters to since I started. I keep track of that, so if it's a second, then I try and mention that letter that, yeah, keep at it. There's some that I watch year after year. Landowners, they're pretty good. It's when you get these development ones, which drives me nuts. They buy an 80-acre piece and they let it sit for 2 years before they develop it. Rent it to somebody. Look at the weeds. There's one up by Sioux Falls. I asked the guy, I said, why didn't you rent it? Well, you could have got this many dollars an acre for 2 years. Now you're gonna spend this much to go disc it, you know? But it's their land, they can do what they want.
That's right.
Some of the worst ones I ever dealt with were the ones that were in a trust fund.
Oh, yes.
You cannot find anybody to talk to if they're in a trust.
Yeah, who would be the owner? You know, the owner of the trust, he's dead, or what's like.
And 90% of them are run by a bank. You get a banker on the phone and
I have one like that. It's a pie shape in the end. It's wet. It's full of Canadians, and that was a trust fund. Well, you send a letter out. Came back undeliverable, did some chasing, went another one. Yes, a banker called me, and I said, okay, somebody is taking cash rent from this ground. That's who you need to send this to. And I said, and they eventually, I did get there, but it took me almost 2 months. Now, but
they're fun.
I just keep chasing. I'm like a wart. I ain't gonna go away. I'll keep after it. It ain't gonna happen fast, but I'm gonna keep after it.
Any other discussion on those last three reports? If not, do we have a motion to accept them as presented?
I make that motion.
I have a second.
I'll say it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Old business. I see there's nothing on the agenda in old business.
I'm always impressed by the weed display at the state fair. Are you part of that?
They've called and asked me, but every time I get called, I've got something going on. All right, I pushed ahead to new business. Our weed tour, I didn't have time to put it on a slide because I was off gallivanting in Wisconsin, so I quick printed these out this morning. The first one there is this Lennox exit. I get calls over and over and over on that. I probably get 15 calls a year on that. It's where that insurance auto auction is. Then these two businesses, that's a before and after picture. They get it done, but I think that mowing was done. I started in 1st of June, and I think they mowed it 15th August. And that's one that they do the same thing every year. They'll do it, but it takes forever to get there.
That's the second picture here.
Yeah, the second one's got it mowed off. That first one by the dirt pile, that was all sunflowers. And then the rest of this is all Canadians. And that's changed owners, I think, 3 or 4 times since, in like 2 years, 3 years. So then every time I go to chase it, now I gotta find the new owner to it. But I keep chasing them down. The other one I got, this is where I fight kochia on the sides of the road. The first one, first picture, my standard road mix, it doesn't touch it. This is about a month after I sprayed and that kochia's coming like mad. Well, then I used a chemical called E2. You gotta use it by itself. And you can see on the little arrow there where 6 foot, it took it out. I sprayed early and it held it. We're good. The last picture, I used another one that I tried that I can actually put it with my Tordon milestone. That's called Vista. You can see the left side where I put that on, and then the right side where I didn't. So these two chemicals, whether I do them alone or if I use a mix with it, I'm leaning towards using it alone because I don't want to put that extra, it's somewhere between $5 and $7 an acre more on every bit of the road. I just want to hit the bad kochia spots. As long as chemicals holding it, just hit them bad ones so I can keep my costs down on it. But if I know I got a bad road, I do have this Vista that I can put in with it, and it's worked good. And with all the graveling they did with the flooding, I'm gonna have a lot of kochia next year. Yeah, and that gravel, there's no organic matter, so when you spray, in 2 months, you got all the weeds again because there's nothing to hold your chemical in it, you know. Like Tordon has some carryover, so does Milestone, but on freshly graveled shoulders, the minute it rains, it rinses it out. That's like when they redid this 128 out there, and that's why it took me 3 years to cure that, because pure gravel, and it was a lot of it because they're trying to build it up. Other than that, I don't have anything as far as tour. You guys drive the county roads, you can kind of see stuff. The shoulders are good, down in the ditch, yeah, a lot of sunflowers. I did run around trying to hit my worst Canadian patches in between helping with flooding and other stuff, but I am in the process. I'm going to try and spray every road this fall. and then it'll work good on the thistles, and I'll have some carryover to spring.
You probably see more of this than anybody else, how these weeds are building up tolerances against this spray, it's like.
I never go with the low rate. I've talked to some that, well, I'm just gonna throw in pint and a half's the lowest you go on Tordon. That I'll do in the spring when stuff's little, but otherwise it's 2 pints. And Milestone, the maximum in a year is 7. The lowest I'll go is in the spring, I'll put a dash in at 3 on certain roads, and then I'll come back with another 4. But if I'm going in the fall, then I pull it full 7 ounces, because when you start doing low rates, that's when they build their tolerance, because they get used to it. It's like snake venom. Give yourself a little bit all the time, and eventually you're immune. So stay at the higher rates. And doing that, that's partially why I'm backing off on spraying every single inch all the way to the fence. If I get a really clean ditch, cut back a little bit, especially where they hay them. Where they hay a ditch, it stays nice and clean. Maybe a little in the fence line and shoulder, so hit shoulder with a truck and the fence line with a Ranger and keep the money in the bank. Or try to. Then it floods and we'll have lots, you'd be surprised the weeds we'll have next year. All them low spots, all the corn stalks and stuff washed in, I'm expecting a mess in the spring.
Yeah. You can already see it in some of the ditches, some of the stuff that's coming.
Yeah, and I mean, they do try and clean the ditches out where you get all them corn stalks washed in, but we're trying to fix roads first before you go cleaning them. And if we have an open winter, they'll pick away at it, but
Well, we appreciate all your hard work in doing all this here stuff and everything.
yeah, it ain't perfect, but I keep plugging away. I'll keep
Thank
plugging
you for
away.
that.
Any other questions on anything I'm doing or future things doing?
So that's the extent of the new business.
Yeah, unless you guys got something. I can tell you as far as complaints, I don't have anybody that I would be chasing for a declaration to where we go in and do the work. I've got them to get it done. I thought I was gonna have one this year and pushing and finally got a hold of a phone number and talked to them and told them that, yeah, if we go in there, it's going to be expensive, because I won't be able to use the county mower. We'll have to go out and rent a mower or a disc or whatever, and doing some talking, spraying chemical on somebody's land can be touchy. You're better off mowing it, because if they don't want chemicals, you can't spray. So, and I did get that one to finally do something. If I get one like that, I will email or contact you guys ahead of time that we'd have a meeting, and then you'd have to declare them and chase it down. But so far, I've been getting through them. I come close, but
That is last resort.
yeah, I'm more of a believer, just keep on them to get it done, and they will, because, yeah, we can legally declare them, and I can go rent a mower and show up with the cops, and I'm gonna mow your ground, and then send them a bill. If they don't pay the bill, then the auditor puts it on their taxes.
And they can add percentages to that, and
Yeah.
it really gets spendy, really in a hurry.
Now, the one, I should say two, the one I chased, I talked them into letting me spray the worst of it with a Ranger. And then they were gonna get it done, and I did see that they finally did get out and disc the rest of it down, but, yeah.
Did they ever take care of the weeds by Fleet Farm? I believe that. Wasn't it Fleet Farm that had all those Canadians around it?
Up there by Benson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have or not. That would be in the city limits up there, so,
Wow, that was something else.
yeah,
That's just south and east a little bit of Fleet Farm, or you're talking
Well,
about?
yeah, it's just right next door. There's Canadians right next door to Fleet Farm, just on the same block, maybe you might say.
Yeah, that falls in the city limits, Sioux Falls, and they're,
Yeah.
I'm sure they get hundreds of thousands with grass and everything else. They're not the fastest at chasing them down. I do know they chase it, but I'm sure with a city that big, you can imagine all the complaints they get. But
Yeah.
I send it to them and I never get an answer back. I've asked, but they don't, and that's their business. But if it's in,
Different county too, it's like.
yeah.
It all runs through Parks and Rec.
Yeah. And I know they work on them, and I deal with it a lot on the south side and a bunch of leafy spurge and that, and I turn it over to them. And where I get a little bit, well, it's touchy is, oops, if you're in city limits, you're on the south, in Lincoln County, and that's where they've annexed to, I'm chasing you for weeds and he's got just as many. Why do you gotta do his and the city doesn't get his? And I've dealt with one of them, and Lincoln County chases weeds. Take care of it. You can talk to the city of Sioux Falls. It gets a little ugly dealing with that because, yeah, why would you have to do yours but the city don't? And I'm not putting Sioux Falls down. I can about imagine how many thousands of complaints they'd get in a city that size, you know.
My neighbor does the lawn care business, and those city owners, boy, they think the world of those thistles because they got such pretty flowers on them.
I sprayed a township a couple years ago and lady was gonna sue the county because I killed all them pretty flowers out there in the ditch. Well, I'm sorry. You can try. But,
Technically, any flowers in the ditch you can spray,
oh yeah, yeah,
even if they plant irises or tulips or whatever.
you bet.
That's your road ditch.
That is a right of way and I can,
That's something else hard to explain. A lot of people, they don't realize they pay taxes to the center of the road. It's their responsibility, but they don't have control over it. It's like,
yeah, it's like the boulevard in town,
yeah,
you know. Yeah, with all the trees dying in town here and that, yeah, you gotta take it down, but that's their right of way. The fight goes on. The fight goes on.
well,
All right.
that's the end of our new business, announcements for a year-end meeting here in December.
I would suggest let me talk to Terry and we'll chase down a date or two, cause we gotta coordinate with the auditor, cause that year-end stuff, it's usually that second week of December. When we figure it out, I'll get something sent out. You have to let us know if that works or don't work. We'll shoot for a morning meeting again. I guess I prefer morning meetings.
Yeah, I'm putting down the minutes to be announced.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would, yeah, let me and Terry do some chasing. He can find out for sure. And then we gotta find out what the schedule is for this room for court and stuff, when that works. It'd be in it's usually that first week, I think, in December.
Anybody have anything else? Paul? Nope. Ralph?
Nope.
Randy?
Thank you for
That's
your
it.
support, guys.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thanks, everybody.